Yeah, welcome to episode. This is 11? It's episode
Yeah, I think
11.
so. Episode 11. I'm in heaven.
But yes, so this past week, a trailer came out to a movie franchise that we thought had died a long time ago. Um, and we, I guess, decided to. Well, you were on a binge watching the trilogy, and you said, "Hey, let's do this as an episode." And I said, "Hell yeah!" And that's The Matrix, of
Yeah,
course.
let's do the only good one as an episode. That's how we're reviewing the third film in the series.
But yes,
Yeah, we
so
should get them.
what were your thoughts on the film,
The,
the first one?
yeah, the first one's it's really good. I think it holds up pretty well. Even special effects wise, it's not really like too bad or jarring or anything.
Except for maybe the shot at the very end with him flying.
Yeah, well, I guess he it just because in the next movie he's just flying everywhere, isn't he? At that point, he's just like,
Yeah.
I can just fly. It's like, do you know what? Something that's interesting about the ending of the first one is the building that he takes off out in front of, that triangular building.
Hmm.
I think that's where he ends up fighting Agent Smith in the third one, the same spot.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Or so he returns there anyways in the third movie at some point.
I thought you were going to say that that's a landmark building in Sydney.
I don't know if it is, to be honest. Oh, I mean, I guess it must be, but I don't recognize it by looking at it, to be honest. Even
Yeah.
though that's where we live.
Okay, just no
I
doxing
definitely
me, thanks.
recognize they're actually near the Lint Cafe. In that woman in the red dress scene.
Mm. Hey, there's
Yeah,
also a guy with a gun there too. Damn.
yeah. I think every background character in that is a twin.
Oh?
I think they specifically all hired twins for
Okay.
that. Um, I think that's because, and I think it's intentional because they say because one of the people on the whatever the hell the name of that friggin' ship is, I'm not going to try and repeat it, made that simulation. So to save on like RAM or whatever you want to call it, he just copy and pastes every NPC once, I guess, is the idea.
Okay. That's kind of cool. I didn't even pick up on that at all. And of course,
Yeah.
also the filmmakers are twins.
I don't think they were twins. I thought one was definitely older than the other.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to check out factcheck.org and see. Or maybe our podcast will get so famous that the ABC's Media Watch will call us out and go like,
Yeah, maybe like a bunch of people will come to our podcast now just to fucking correct us on
hmm. That's
on,
what we should do.
on
We
that.
should just make completely outrageous claims and just.
False trivia, and then
Okay.
just let people come in and just be like, actually, that's not true.
Hmm.
We're like, oh wait, really? When we review Tropic Thunder, we can say, actually, you'll be surprised to know that Robert Downey Jr. is African American, but he just paints his face white for every other role. Yeah, it's great. The action is great. Like, it is definitely. I love the martial arts in the film. Like, it just looks cool whenever they fight. In my
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it. And in the second one, it's good too. And then in the third film, they're just like, oh, we don't do that except for at the end, and even then, it's mostly like flying.
Yeah, they were definitely knew what they were doing when it came to filming stunt work, the fight choreography. A lot of nice wides and occasional inserts for impact, but for the most part, it's a good mix of cutting between the two versus something like Batman Begins where it's all just
Cutting every
close
second.
ups and you can't even see what's going on.
Yeah, I love the scene after like Neo does that famous bullet time dodge where he like bends backwards, but he still gets shot, which I always forget that he actually gets shot in that part. Um, and then like Neo starts shooting back at the agent, and he dodges the bullets, and he's about to kill Neo, and then it has like that shot of Trinity standing there with her pistol, like sort of just like close to the camera, but aiming like off slightly. the angle is so cool, like of her standing there like that, and she just goes, "Dodge this," and then like up close, you see the gun just like shoot the guy in the head.
Yeah,
I always love that scene. I think that's really cool.
that is pretty good. But that reminds me, my favorite kind of like shot in this film is when Morpheus is chatting to Neo for the first time, and the scene where he's going to take either the red pill or blue pill. There's this fantastic close-up of Morpheus where he's offering the two pills. You can see Keanu in his glasses.
Yeah.
But what I love about it so much, and this has to be intentional, it's kind of like you see Neo's reflection twice, right? In one spectacle and the pill in either, and it's almost like symbolically representing the two lives he could potentially take up here.
Yeah.
I know that's super artsy-fartsy, but that's definitely what they were doing, and that's such a great way of showing that. While having like this intense close-up of Morpheus happening at the same time. It's really great filmmaking.
They definitely paid a lot of attention to detail in this film, especially compared to the other two. They really, really were like, you could tell that they were super on the nose with this film when they were making it. It was actually, I was actually impressed. There's not even really a lot of plot holes from my memory about it. Even if there are plot holes, you'd be like, Matrix did it. Like, it's just the Matrix, bro.
Yeah, I will say, maybe you might be able to help me out here because I couldn't recall when I was watching it during the final action sequence involving the helicopter. So just before the dodge this thing, was it after? Oh no, just after the dodge this. I think it is.
When they're on the helicopter.
Yeah. With that scene or the setup to it. So when they're rescuing Morpheus, I was a bit confused why they blew up the building to set off sprinklers. And
because it looks cool.
Were they anticipating that they'd have a helicopter as well? Like, because it seems like that's how they rescue him, but I don't know, they didn't know that it would be on the rooftop. I feel like that might be where they kind of falter a bit for me, because I don't think it makes sense.
With the sprinklers part? Yeah, I can't remember why they do the sprinklers. I think it's to cause a distraction.
My assumption is to wake him up.
In the building.
Yeah. But then
I think maybe it makes the agents go looking for them in the building, so that way by the time they get to Morpheus, they shouldn't have to fight any agents. But then I guess why take the helicopter?
Yeah, because she has to learn it, the programming things. I don't know. That for me was a bit like, ironically, I loved everything up to that point. The action was still good, but I feel like this got a bit silly for maybe that 10-15 minute mark, and then afterwards I enjoyed it. It's funny, whenever I watch a sci-fi film, the action for some reason seems to be what I'm least interested in. It's the same with like, I don't know if you've ever seen a film called District 9, but the first 2/3 of that are great, and then the rest of it's just a big shootout, like action sequence with mechs and stuff. I'm like, I really don't care. I want to know more about the concept, the world building, and the characters.
I don't think I've ever seen District 9. To be honest, I think at that point, that part of the entire movie is just meant to be spectacle.
Yeah.
Like from the part where they walk into the fucking the metal detecting part, and he puts the bag of guns down on the thing and it starts beeping, and then they just get their guns out and shoot. Like, I mean, it's cool and it looks kind of cool, like how he does that. But at the same time, why would you bother putting it on the thing?
Yeah,
just start opening fire anyways. You know, the scene with like after that where Neo and Morpheus are hanging from the helicopter. That's practical, yeah.
Some of those shots are practical stunt work, because I believe when they were filming in Sydney, they changed flight laws or helicopter aviation laws to allow them to actually film the sequence, because I think there was something about being at a certain height relative to buildings. Something like that. And then I guess the filmmaker said, hey, we're going to make a bunch of money for you guys. And they were like, okay, sure, we'll change the law. So some of that was stunt work, especially the wider ones where you can't quite make them out. Obviously, they're stunt doubles.
Oh, yeah, but like what I was insinuating is that it's literally two guys hanging from a helicopter in that part.
Yeah, no, that actually happened, I believe.
That's so cool. Badass.
No, it's a pretty solid film overall. Something that I noticed more, so I'd seen this a couple of times, and I'd always heard from people who really dig deep into like film analysis that this was kind of a very self-aware movie, like under the surface. So it's a very conventional hero's journey story. Obviously, a really neat new sci-fi concept. But it's also kind of like commenting on film history up to that point and what the 21st century could be like with filmmaking. So, like as an example, you'll find this is actually a cool thing that I picked up on this watch with that in mind, is you'll find that there'll be visual callbacks to earlier movies or like film genres, and then shortly after they'll show off like their bullet time or something crazy that you could only do with digital effects. So you might have noticed this actually with when Agent Smith is fighting Neo in the subway. Did you see how there's like it's set up like a Western before they start shooting? Like there's a low angle on their hands. It's sort of extreme.
like gonna like draw or something like that.
Yeah, so that's like an example, and then a few seconds later they run at each other, and then there's the full slow mo 360 bullet time sequence. So
yeah, do you know how they do that? By the way,
from memory, the Trinity one at the start, I think, was they have a series of. So this is shot on film still. So they had a series of cameras in a full panorama. They would just take a photo from each one as she's sort of moving, and then digitally erase the cameras. I want to say that's how they did that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Which
is actually really cool.
It is cool because as a kid, I only found that out recently because we watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, I watched that and I'm like, how do they do that? Like, like, did they just stick them up on a wire and circle around them with the camera? That's what I thought when I was a kid. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that could have been another way of doing it as well.
It wouldn't look as good though.
Yeah, no, it would be a different. I don't think you would get it wouldn't be as slow, I guess. Like you wouldn't quite get the effect that they wanted, I think, in terms of almost pausing time. But no, that's so that's like an example. So it's in a lot of ways it's sort of beneath the surface, or this is how you can read it rather. It's kind of like commenting on how far movies have come and like look at what we can do for the future. Then they kind of screwed it, I guess, shortly thereafter.
Yeah, well, they foreshadowed just forgetting to care.
Like you should. This is a guilty pleasure movie of mine. They did a film called Speed Racer, and it basically looks like a really cringe Spy Kids era CG animated film.
I've never seen it. People love that movie.
It's legitimately fun. Like I'm not going to deny it's fun, but it looks like shit. Like
well, Speed Racer, is he an anime? Was it an anime to start with? Okay.
Yeah. But there's a lot of wacky things happening in it. But basically, just picture like your typical like Spy Kids 3D, the one where they go in a computer program. The world kind of looks like that.
I haven't watched that recently, funnily enough. That movie is incredible, and
that's got Stallone in it, doesn't it?
Yes, and Steve Buscemi. It actually has like a large roster, but you know who that steals the show?
Who's that?
The Dinkster. Somebody ring the Dinkster. Do you remember that part?
Mate, I haven't seen it since the movies. So how long is that? 15 years?
Something how at the end when they calling in family, and then like they call in the family and they're like, oh, it's not enough. And he's like, and then Junie remembers that he got told everyone's your family at the start. So he's like, calling everyone. And then all these characters from the previous movies come in with their jet boots. And then this cowboy guy comes down under an umbrella and he's like, somebody ring the Dinkster. But there's a YouTube channel that I believe has uploaded a somebody ring the Dinkster edit or just the original video every single day for the past like decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most insane thing in the universe to me. It's a 10-second scene in a film, not even 10 seconds. The guy has spent a decade uploading daily. Anyway, I just had to put that out there because you mentioned that movie. I had to.
Oh no, fair enough. They should. I'm sure someone's done this, but they need to do like the Avengers team up music, like the Portal soundtrack.
I'm certain they would have done that.
Yeah. See, only real cinema goers remember the true team up sequence from Spy Kids 3D.
Yeah, everybody says that the Avengers is like goated. I don't know, man. It's just saying some other stuff. But
I mean, maybe Thor Ragnarok is goated.
Is it though? I don't
It's
think
got a
Thor
Kiwi
Ragnarok.
filmmaker.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's good. Like it's fine, but like I think the whole thing about Thor Ragnarok is at that point in Thor's like
Oh
what do
no,
you
I was just
call it?
making a joke about goats and Kiwis.
Oh, it's funny that like you say like like they're showing basically what you can do with that technology for modern filmmaking because also I heard that what's it called? The flying scenes in one of the movies
Mm-hmm.
is responsible for why we got Superman Returns. So I guess they watched it and they were like, "Wow, we could make Superman again." Like
That's actually
because of
kind
the
of cool. I like
flying.
that.
Yeah, and then they made Superman Returns and they're like, "Let's not do that again." And then they made Man of Steel and gave it to a very subpar director who
Mhm.
is not as smart and as deep as he believes himself to be.
He is, yeah, he is very surface level. That looks cool. That looks cool. That looks cool.
Oh, this song has zombie in it. I guess I got to put it in my zombie movie.
Mm,
Man, just like thought he did like the most genius fucking move of all time with that one, man. Like,
yeah. What did you think of Keanu Reeves' performance? Because I actually did not mind it.
Keanu, he's good in that role because you can like sit there and be like, yeah, I guess that's what like that's how I guess he would be.
Yeah, he works as a sort of fish out of water type guy because he seems to have
He
this
has no
natural
range.
expression. Yeah, he has this natural expression of looking really confused. So it kind of works for this one
Yep,
as he's
that's
learning
pretty
about the
much it. Like
Matrix.
he does not have like and I like Keanu Reeves as a person. I think he's really cool. He's a nice
Hmm.
guy, but he's not a good actor. Like he can play characters that he's like he plays John Wick well because John Wick is an emotionless, cold-blooded killer. So for him to have a straight sort of like unfeeling face is so perfect for that role. And then I also like to think that somehow John Wick is another version of Neo in a different Matrix.
I mean, you're welcome to. Like, as a fan theory, I don't know if that's a good idea to do that, though. I've always enjoyed a good self contained story. I guess the Marvel movies are kind of the exception. But, you don't need to have two different franchises be in the same universe. Like, does it really make a difference if Ridley Scott says, "Ooh, Alien and Blade Runner are in the same universe"? No. Man can't even
Yeah,
decide on a final cut for Blade Runner. I'm not going to listen to his ramblings about anything else to do with that movie.
he almost semi ruins his own franchises all the time, anyways, with new films. He can't even make a good Alien movie anymore. He didn't even make the best Alien movie.
Which one is
What's his face?
Aliens?
Aliens, yes.
Interesting, yeah. It's
And I'm a
tricky.
horror fan, but I think I'm more of an action horror fan, so that's probably why I like Aliens more.
Mm. This is another example of what I said before with sci-fi concepts and the action, quote unquote action stuff. With Alien, I love the first half before the alien is created or born. The chestburster thing happens. The rest of it's
Yeah, the
great,
chest
but it
burster.
becomes like a slasher film, and I'm just not as interested in that as opposed to like the slow, atmospheric, just exploring that spaceship and what the hell's happening to John Hurt's character and all that kind of stuff. That's more
Is it true
fascinating to
that
me.
is it true that they didn't know that he was getting like chest bursted and like it was that's why they all screamed because it was actually a genuine surprise for them?
So that's what I've heard, but I've also heard something that sounds a bit more accurate, which is they had an idea that it would explode from his chest. They didn't realize how much blood there would be or how gross the creature would look. So I think that's why, like Veronica Cartwright's so freaked out. It's just all this blood just splatters on her out of nowhere.
Interesting.
Because the original script before it was rewritten, like the only thing that they kept from that, it was meant to be more of a schlocky B movie, and the only thing that the new writers kept from that scene or that whole film was the chestburster thing. So I would assume that reading the script they would see that. I don't think that was hidden from them. I just
Right.
don't think they knew the extent of like how grotesque and violent, visceral it would be for them, like all the blood. That's my understanding.
Right.
But still, pretty great film. The Aliens is also really good. I'm mixed. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I was really mixed though because there's two cuts for that film. There's like a director's cut and theatrical, and I like some scenes from the director's cut, which I wish were included in the theatrical. But there's also other scenes which are just not needed, which just really bogged down the movie. I don't know which one you've seen, but the director's cut basically.
I haven't even seen the full original Alien, to be honest. So I guess I can't really say that one's my favorite.
Oh no, I was referring to Aliens. Pardon me. Like,
oh yeah,
there's a sequence at the beginning in the director's cut which shows like Newt's father getting the face hugger on him, which I didn't think you needed to see. But what I do like from that one is that's when Ripley learns about her daughter dying or missing her daughter's life, and so it adds more context to why she sort of looks after Newt as like a new daughter. Like you don't have that in there.
That makes the third Alien movie even fucking worse, man.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I know about the infamous off-screen death. She just
fucking wakes up and Newt is just dead in the bloody in the cryopod or whatever it is.
Yeah, they crash land, I think, right?
No, I think it just malfunctions and she just dies.
Oh my god!
I think they crash land, and then she dies in the fourth one, or between the third and fourth one, and then it's a clone Ripley, and she's like got superpowers, and it's horribly bad. You know, one thing in this movie that's confusing to me that I've never gotten, people will say it all the time, and I personally don't see it, is that it's referencing being transgender. And I can't really say like how it feels to be transgender and the trials and tribulations of that. But when I watch this, for me personally, it doesn't seem like there's much going on with being transgender. I honestly just felt the movie was more about learning to believe in yourself and trusting that you are capable. I guess in a way you could argue that like that does relate to being transgender, like believing that you are who you are on the inside or whatever. You know what I mean? And you can break free of society's norms in that regard.
Well, but yeah.
Other than that, I never really pick up on it too much. I was wondering if you.
No, really... I've never gotten that impression. In the most abstract sense, yeah, the whole idea of like, choosing a life and conforming to society, or going beyond that, being yourself. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that's a case of people just projecting what the filmmakers what the filmmakers' lives since then, and going, oh, you know what, and retroactively like applying that. I don't like when they do that stuff. There's nothing explicit
on it. The Wachowskis, have they ever commented on them themselves?
I'm not too sure. The films I've seen of theirs, granted, I've only seen Speed Racer and I think half of Cloud Atlas. Neither of them really have overt references to
transgenderism in Speed Racer. I highly doubt that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but this is sort of like a classic story where you can kind of apply anything you really want to it. He's inspirational insofar as he's kind of pursuing a greater truth and kind of fully realizing himself. So people can say, "Oh, well, that's transgenderism."
And he gives other people like him something to look up to, I guess, and like other people start exiting the Matrix afterwards, and
like you could just as easily interpret it as like
as anything,
being free of a corporate prison job, like because that's what his job is.
Yeah, I guess it's a pretty general thing. I guess you can. I think one of the things that makes it a great movie is that anybody can interpret the meaning of it and put it into their own life. I think a lot of great art is highly open to any kind of interpretation and applicable to pretty much any scenario. Like even in music, when sometimes songs that are about specific things and obviously about specific things are not as memorable as songs that are just like almost lyrically just nonsense, but can be interpreted in many different
Yeah.
scenarios and ways by many different people.
Yeah, well, in this case, and I think I'd mentioned to you in conversations, even though it's a very innovative film as far as the tech goes and the sci-fi concept goes, they are kind of alluding to very classic stories about human self-awareness and ideas of truth that are, from the times of the ancient Greeks, essentially. So it's like they're referencing and using sort of timeless narrative beats. So that's sort of what makes it so appealing, I guess, and won't really date it. Even with the kind of 90s aesthetic that it has. Although, ironically, it feels less dated than The Matrix 2 did.
The music, though, horribly dates them both, like all the films. The music is the worst part, and I like that kind of music, man. But you watch it, and that's like at the end when like what is it, Bomb Track by Rage Against the Machine? It's Rage Against the Machine in both the first two movies. I can't remember the third one, but it's I think it's Bomb Track or something, or that plays at the end, and I love that song and I love those guys. But you watch, you're like, damn, you couldn't just put some score in there.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I was listening out for that this time around, watching it, and they do have some orchestral stuff early on, and even like just piano playing. Like when he's evading the agents in his work office, I think it's just a piano, sort of tense notes playing. And then they even have a gong play, when they do the kung fu thing, which I thought was a little cheesy. But I mean, that's again referencing like Hong Kong martial arts action films from the 70s. So I was okay with it.
Based on. Those like the fighting and stuff in this is definitely based on martial arts films, obviously.
So there's definitely more of a mix, but especially the second one with the big sword fight, that just felt, that was very like, oh, okay, I know when this was made type stuff.
The rock music just ruins it, and as I said, it's like my favorite kind of music. But for me personally, when it comes to movies and scores, I don't mind like some what's the term called? There's diegetic music, which is the music that they can't hear. Diegetic is what they hear in the movie, and non-diegetic is what we hear as an audience, but they can't.
Yeah, non-diegetic or extra diegetic, it doesn't matter, but they're both
diegetic music is fine to have, real songs play and whatever. It's like when you watch Batman 1989. You hear the Prince song playing that was made for the soundtrack that they never really ended up using because it was trash. And, that's fine. I like that. But as for non-diegetic music, I honestly prefer when a film sticks to original pieces for the most part. Unless there are some exceptions, I guess. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of orchestral like orchestral music for films. For example, like when you listen to like a Danny Elfman score or a John Williams score, those scores are all so memorable. Like all their Batman, Superman, Harry Potter, Star Wars, all that sort of stuff is so memorable. You get to Batman Begins and that trilogy, and it's just like dun 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 dun, and it's like kind of memorable, but not to the point where I'm like,
aren't a lot of them just like one or two notes?
Yeah. And then there's like the part like the hook where it's like bum bum, and sometimes there'll be like multiple instruments playing it, sometimes one, and then go back dun 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 dun. It's like Arkham City has a better soundtrack than this, and it's a goddamn video game, man. The Matrix had an MMORPG.
I don't know anything about this.
Which was considered and is, I don't know about after this movie coming out, but is considered canon to the films. And it's set after it's set after them, actually. So
I mean, it's a pretty good property if you're going to make a licensed video game.
A video game about. I mean, yeah.
Like
The movie's a video game.
It is, yeah. The whole programs and stuff is very game-esque without being like obnoxious, I guess.
Yeah, maybe you could argue The Matrix is the best video game movie to exist.
My thinking is we haven't had a good video game movie, but we have very good video game themed movies. So like Scott Pilgrim, I guess people would count. I haven't seen it, but this as well I would count as one of those where it's not based off a video game, but it kind of embraces that culture and it's a fantastic film. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah, for
Gamer
sure.
as well. People might pick, or The Glove.
Oh, the
from
one with
80s.
Julia Butler?
I think so. I haven't seen that. I heard it's quite mixed, but people I've chatted to who like they say they really love it. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go at some point.
The whole plot is like it's literally like a game of Call of Duty, but you control like a real person who's a criminal and is put in there as punishment, and if they die, they actually just die.
Yeah, see, that sounds like since Gerard Butler's in it, that sounds like a really good concept on paper, but probably not a great polished film.
It's not great. Like, and Zac Efron's the guy playing the gamer.
Oh no,
that plays Butler, and I remember distinctly because I watched this when I was a kid. There's this part where he's like video chatting these two chicks because he's the best player in the world, right? And it's like two Japanese girls or some shit, and they just get their tits out, and he's like, "Okay, thanks, girls." And I was like, even as a kid, I was like, "This is nothing like playing video games. I've never seen tits in my life." I wonder how many movies you could tie into the Matrix universe. I swear I heard something about ages ago about how like because the Matrix and the way it's set up is that like heaps of other films can be set or could possibly be set in the Matrix.
right? Were there any examples
like,
that came to mind?
Theories. Oh man, no. I mean, I'm sure that you could find some by typing it up, but I remember somebody talking about that.
Well, I guess you could technically say like Superman.
Superman,
like his powers, glitches, or just
he's one of those god programs.
Yeah.
Anything I guess like that would explain how people just accept him as well in that universe. Like they're just like, yeah, that's normal.
Or reversing time. Yeah, that's probably a good example, I suppose.
I guess so. I don't think that was quite what it was. I think it was more like stuff like shows up in those movies or something, or like they reference the Matrix in those movies, and then therefore that movie like a part of it.
Well, we know Night of the Lepers is definitely part of the Matrix world, I guess.
Do we?
Yeah, if it's playing. And we also know that Sydney becomes the mega city. Yeah, there was a Westpac building in there I saw. when Hugo Weaving, who we haven't talked about at all, but is fucking excellent as Agent Smith.
Yeah, that's his first movie, I think.
Yeah.
Really good in that.
He's great. When he's interrogating Morpheus, the building on the left has like the Westpac logo on it. I thought that's funny. And obviously Neo, when he's escaping his building, I'm pretty sure that you can see the Anzac Bridge behind him. Or like
Neo. I mean, they showed the whole skyline. They showed the Centerpoint Tower.
Yeah, so this must be how Americans feel on a regular basis when they're watching movies and like, this is clearly not the city that it's meant to be. Imagine
watching Batman The Dark Knight and like, okay, it's Chicago.
Well, I know a lot of college films, like college set films, they'll use UCLA because it's literally a few streets away from Hollywood, so it's cheap to just move there. As a stand-in for pretty much any other uni, like Harvard or Boston, whatever. So it's for people in LA, it's super distracting because they'll often use the interior of one building, but come out of another building which is like on the opposite side of the campus. But you know, the inside of that building looks better. Yeah,
better lighting or whatever.
Or for some artistic reason. So that's funny. But yeah, it's a shame. Like, I guess I didn't have to worry too much, but at the same time, you should kind of hide that stuff if you're making like a mega city. Because even at that point in the 90s, Sydney didn't exactly have a lot of buildings. And it's meant to be the sprawling metropolis type thing. Yeah, Sydney's not a big city, man. The CBD, anyway. It's not a huge city. Yeah. So it's interesting. I wonder why they picked it. I'd have to look up some interviews on that. I was going to say they picked it. Maybe just because it had like a distinct skyline. Yeah. It hadn't been really seen in film before.
Maybe because it didn't have a lot of buildings and they wanted to do that helicopter scene, so it was a bit safer.
Yeah. If I had to guess, maybe at the time it was cheaper to film, but also maybe they didn't want to pick an American city because it's mainly an American audience who would watch it, and they want something that's a bit different.
Oh, let's look out of order. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I'm pretty sure if you look at the bird's eye view camera shots, I think they've digitally changed the way that people drive. Like they're not driving on the left; they're driving on the right. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they are, because when they pick Neo up under that bridge and that is it the Cadillac, the black car? I don't know what it is. You know, when they're like waiting out in the rain and there's that big waterfall of rain under the bridge, which is kind of, I think, near Central Station, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah, I pass it for work sometimes. Yeah, I think that's where it is.
They probably just closed off a bunch of streets to get people like driving on the other sides.
Yeah, or just an easy digital composite, because it's far away. It's far enough away from the camera that you wouldn't be able to tell if it's CG'd in on top of the street or not.
Yeah, but I mean, they add buildings in, for God's sake. So
Hugo Weaving is just fantastic. Mr. Anderson.
I always forget his name is Thomas Anderson. That's just so strange to me.
That sounds so familiar. Is Thomas Anderson someone? I don't know.
It's Neo.
Oh, it's Neo, yeah. Which is an anagram for one. Did you know that? Did you know it's an anagram for one?
That's so clever.
Damn.
It's also an anagram for Eon. I wonder if that means anything. Maybe because it's been Eon since we last saw him in the films. Especially when you're watching the third movie and you're like, God, it's been fucking eons since I've seen Neo in this movie. Sick of these bloody mech suits. I thought this was called the fucking Matrix, not Battle of Zion with the mech suits that kind of look like the ones from Avatar. A vastly superior film to the third Matrix. And it's not even good. James Cameron, what happened to you, man? Go drive some more truck.
He just made a lot of money and decided to just make standard films that would make even more money rather than innovative, unique sci-fi stuff like Terminator.
Aliens.
He has a really eclectic filmography because his first film, I think, although he got kicked off of it actually, was Piranha 2.
That one that was what?
I think it was Piranha 2. No?
There's a one before that. Good Bad Flicks does a video on it. I swear to God, I was watching this the other day. I can't remember what it's called. But it's a space movie, and it actually, like, he borrows most of the stuff from that movie for Aliens 2. I swear to God. Aliens. Sorry, just Aliens.
Just Aliens.
Even the backpacks with the floodlights are from that film. And like, I swear to God, he got on that film and worked his way up. And then they were like, oh, that's good, but whatever. Like, you're just, James, we don't want to give you a film. He's like, all right, well, fuck you guys. So then but somebody took notice of him and they kind of shopped him around. And he did get to go to work on Piranha 2. Then what happened was somebody, the director or the producer or something, waited till he finished shooting, although he didn't admit this, but James Cameron says this, and another actor who is like a lifelong friend of his now says, yeah, James did the whole shoot and then got kicked off at the end. But eventually they let him edit the movie because the execs fucking hated that film. That the guy ended up editing himself, and then James got his name associated with it in the end.
Yeah.
But then he did... as you know, he was doing Terminator at the time as well, and they said, "Oh, if this is a hit, we'll let you do the Aliens sequel."
He did Aliens. He also did a film I haven't seen, but apparently a lot of people quite like, The Abyss, which is where he first used the CG tech that he would use for the T-1000.
Yeah, he mentions this in that as well.
Yeah, I really want to watch it because apparently the ending's a bit schlocky. I don't know what that means when people say that, but they've told me it's schlocky and kind of ruins the rest of the film. But apparently up to that point, it's pretty good. He did True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is probably the last action film of Arnie's. I mean, it's still a comedy, but before he
people say that he died after that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, once he did Titanic, I think that was it. And then he just waited and did Avatar. So it's a bizarre filmography.
He's been waiting for years to do It's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which he reckons he's got panned out. Put it out there, man.
I mean,
The first one was well received. I thought it was cool at the time. I was like, "Oh, really huge scale film."
Mm.
And then I can't watch it again because it's so boring.
Yeah.
But at the time, as a kid, you're like, spectacle. Wow, this is mushing my brain into ADHD stew.
Yeah.
Like,
he's too busy being a egomaniac and trying to get the record for world's deepest dive. He had it at one point. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's right. I
But
do
then-
know that. Somebody took it off him.
Yeah, I was at a James Cameron exhibit when I was in New Zealand. It was really good about his filming and all that, and they talked about obviously some of his accomplishments outside of the record, which was beaten recently. And I jokingly said to one of the museum staff, "Oh, I bet he's fuming that it's broken." You know, he's apparently got an infamous ego.
Yeah.
And the guy said, "Oh, no doubt, mate. He's probably going to go down for another run, try and beat it." Like,
what if he just died? What if he just didn't come back up? Maybe you should make a friggin' movie about deep diving.
you should. I mean, I guess Abyss is technically that, I think, but
I can't remember even the context of it.
I think it's like an underwater, slightly horror-esque movie.
Sounds like it.
But yeah, that's James Cameron. I wish he would make some good movies again. Oh, I mean, interesting movies, I suppose. I would say that Titanic and Avatar are competent, technically speaking.
I mean, they look good, and they're pretty standard plot structures and stuff. I guess. I don't know.
But they don't wow you
which
Terminator
is weird
does.
because it should. In a way, it should. The stuff that happens in Avatar is incredible, and it looks great.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't do anything, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe we're just too desensitized to things like that now.
Could be.
Because at the end of the day, his stories are not that. Most of them are not that amazing. They're quite classic stories, just told in kind of interesting ways.
Yeah.
It's just a boy and his little robot in T2 in a way, but it's got that hard action edge to it. So it's like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I mean, it's Iron Giant in a way.
Yeah. Well, it's with those ones. He's always struck me as a guy who's really interested in spectacle and pushing visual effects. But I think he's lucked. He also, because I know he's a screenwriter, but he definitely has wanted to emphasize that more and more recently. So, obviously, Terminator and Terminator 2 especially does have that spectacle of great action sequences, but it still has heart and a really just
classic nice story.
Yeah,
and, good character.
Whereas I think something like Avatar is just kind of meh, quite generic, but not in a kind of I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. He seems to be more interested in the 3D, in the creation of the world and the characters, which is fine. But I just don't feel invested in it as a result. Really.
Maybe you should try and make a video game or something.
Yeah, I think you should.
A big exploration game or something like that. See what he does with that.
That would be pretty awesome. Or a VR thing with his experience deep diving.
Oh yeah.
Exploring the Titanic.
Just make the underwater look really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. James Cameron, you can pay us royalties.
Exactly. Just like that guy from that one show. Oh, I was going to make a joke, but I can't even remember. You know the whole controversy with the Terminator allegedly ripping off a short sci-fi story?
Sure. I think I've heard about that.
I think it begins and ends with just a super soldier going back in time.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a fair bit we've done.
A lot of stuff.
I think
and also The Matrix, which is good.
Yes.
And you should watch it.
My final thing on The Matrix is that Rockstar should make a game because they've pretty much perfected a similar bullet time mechanic in Max Payne 3 and in the Red Dead games. I think they would be pretty good.
Yeah, but also don't make it because your company's going downhill quite fast and are very greedy at the moment.
Oh yeah, maybe 2010, 2010, 2011 Rockstar. If we can go back to that time, 10 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess. Do we want to do a question at all?
Would you take the red pill or the blue pill, given the choice?
Yes. Are you a
It is a
Neo
tough one.
or are you a Cypher?
It is a tough one, isn't it? Because I don't know if I would want to go and live in Zion and potentially die. Even like there's nothing, because to me, right, there's nothing inherently wrong with living in the Matrix. Too much.
That's true. I mean,
You still live your life out, and when you die, you just get used for fuel by other. It's almost like a symbiotic relationship, sort of.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. They don't really. Maybe in the sequels, I can't remember. They might dive into it a bit more, but in the first one, they don't really discuss that beyond maybe the character of Cypher. How you still have a fair amount of freedom to do what you want within the confines of the Matrix itself.
You can just do whatever you normally do in real life, like what we do. It's just like living how we do. In fact, the real world kind of sucks.
Yeah. And I ain't no Zionist.
It's the idea of being controlled, I guess, that they're against.
Yeah.
But, you know, the only reason they even get control enforced on them is because they're, you know, breaking the laws of the life. I don't know. Anyway, it's hard to. I honestly don't know if I'd take the red or the blue pill.
It's a good question.
It would depend on the day. To be honest with you, like it'd be if I was having a shit day at work, like a really horrible day at work, and somebody said, "Hey, do you want to take the red pill and get the fuck out of this simulation, or do you want to take the blue pill or red pill all day, mate?" But if I was having a good day, chilling at the beach, eating some good food, something like that,
yeah,
just maxed out a bench PR on my bench press or some shit, I'd be like, "I'm gonna take the fucking blue pill and stay here, man."
Yeah, I mean, if you want to experience a bizarre orgy with like people who act like they're from the Stone Age, red pill all the way, my friend. I guess.
Yeah, I'll just get out of going to work.
Yeah.
Everything else, though, is kind of a way better than what they end up with in Zion. Even afterwards, like how many widows and start and all that were left. So yeah,
it's definitely interesting. Maybe they'll toy with that in Matrix 4. Who knows? We'll see.
Until then,
goodbye.